I'd like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for November 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attendance roll call.
Commissioner Groff is absent. Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Kubaki.
Here.
Commissioner Gazano.
Here.
Commissioner Buckmaster.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Mayor Pifalski.
Here.
Fire Chedzotowski.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Statement of public notice.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Friday, November 3rd.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes for October 3rd, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Consent business, resolution PC 057-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan for the Muskego Norway School District located at W183 South 8750 Racine Avenue, tax key number 2242.999.
Move to adopt. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Old business for consideration. Resolution PC 004-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Jewel Homes located at West 173 South 7600 Westwood Drive, tax key number 2196.031.
So moved. Second.
Actually, I think it's on the floor. It's already on the floor, so. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you guys may recall, September 12th, John Jewell, the owner of this property, was here, and we kind of had some discussions with him regarding some kind of outstanding items on site, some cleanup things that needed to be taken care of. There was some just weed removal, gravel installation, installation of some trees between them and the neighbor's property. Basically, all of those items have been taken care of at this time. I did talk to the neighbors, the Halbert family, and they are happy with the trees that were installed. There were some additional trees installed, and they were happy to see the weeds cleaned up around the building and gravel was installed. So I talked to them yesterday, and they're out of town, but they were happy with what's been done out there. They did still bring up, they think there's some drainage issues. It sounds like that, there's another lift of asphalt that's going to be done yet that I think Mr. Jewell believes might help solve some of these drainage issues on site. I'm not sure I'm convinced of that, but either way, the drainage issues really are contained to his site. So I guess if he's causing himself drainage issues, that's really his issue more than ours. It's not causing any neighbor any issues, and it's not causing the city roadway any issues. So, if the Plan Commission's content with what was done then they can decide about the curbing. That really was the original question, was, were they okay waiving the curbing requirement? And if you are, we would just need to amend the resolution to remove the be it further resolved that talks about the curbing being required. If you would want to keep the curbing, then we just leave it as is.
Where was the curbing proposed to be?
Really adjacent to any reinstalled asphalt. So it would have been along the southern edge. And keep in mind the photo that's there has changed since because they've repaved different portions of the site, but basically just bordering any asphalt that's on that was newly paved on that property, just that one small property.
Because I know on the north side, I don't know how you curb that area and not have water pooling there.
Well, what they would do is inlets. You'd shape the paving to go to inlets. That's
Okay.
what you do. I'm not saying it's a fix all. There's drainage issues. Definitely they're not solved now. When we went out there, you can definitely see areas of washout, but it's washout on their own property. So probably not ideal. If it was my property, I wouldn't want it pooled like it is, and curbing and proper grading could fix that, but it's not hindering anyone else. That's, I think, the most important factor.
Further comments or discussion? Thoughts on the curbing?
Yeah.
I mean, when he brought it up to me, it's got to go back a year.
Probably, yeah.
One of my concerns were if we require curbing on a repave, or how many repaves are going to be delayed just because of the added cost? It looks better than gravel by having it paved. Does it look as nice and as functional having the curbing added? No, but it's a step up. So it's a fine line. You know, it's commission's decision on what we want to do, and I'm sure what we do here is giving some direction to staff as well as far as moving forward. So, you know, I think we need to weigh in on it.
Well, I was out there today, and there's a catch basin on the south end of the property. I don't know how you build that up enough to actually have water run into it. And on the north side, there's such a big dip that comes off of that Jerome parking lot. Again, I just can't imagine how you'd be able to direct water to correct any kind of pooling that he has right now.
Yeah, I think like if you were looking at a big picture fix, which is, I agree, probably not cost effective here, would be you'd have inlets in ground, you know, you'd actually, like you would in the middle of a normal parking lot. That's not obviously something they're doing here, and that would involve a whole storm sewer system. That would be the proper fix, but I think we'll all agree that's not practical for a small little storage lot like this.
I'm happy the way it looks.
One thing that, just a suggestion from staff is, you know, being that this is not a customer used use, you know, there's really not even parking because it's all supposed to be internal storage. You know, it's a very passively used site. You know, if the plan commission is going to have some direction, that might be one suggestion is, you know, we case by case basis kind of review, but especially when it's something that's no customers using it. You know, the whole idea with the curbing is more customer centric, but also keeping customers where they should and shouldn't be. Here, you don't have customers. It's really just employees of that company, because it's passive storage for that company. They're not even allowed outdoor parking here. So, you know, this is different than most other sites we see, I would say.
I guess I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to remove the curbing, given that it's not public use, it's a repave, and that the water conditions are constrained to strictly their site.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion or the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any further discussion on the resolution as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Resolution PC 033-2023, approval of a rustic structures designation for Brian Heron, located at South 99 West 20523 Parker Drive, tax key number 2280.999.021. This is on the floor. Just waiting for.
Yeah, I can kind of go over some of the highlights here. So as you guys may recall, this has been back in front of us a few times for the rustic structure designation for a couple of the buildings on the Brian Wren farm. Do you want to go to the one that has like buildings, the highlights? As you kind of may recall, like I said, there was kind of the question of what buildings would be allowed by right, what buildings would be allowed rustic structure designation, if any, would all of them, would some of them, questions like that. So the applicant most recently did give us some updates, which are included in your packet, and we summarized them in the supplement. But if you look at the illustration that's shown on the screens in front of you now, which is in your packet also, you're going to basically see that what they're looking at doing is a couple things to kind of provide some lenience here. One item is they're looking at taking 13,000 square feet from an adjacent lot that doesn't really need to be on that lot because the lot's well above the minimum, and they're looking at adding that land, which is a very easy task to do with a quitclaim deed. They're looking at adding it to this property. Purpose of that, it allows two of the buildings to be allowed wholly by right. So two buildings that are really important for Mr. Wren, which are labeled as buildings 1 and 2, it allows those two to stay quote unquote by right, because they'll be within the 2% allowance if they add that 13,000 square feet. So that, you could say, kind of takes those off the table. That basically leaves then the large barn, which is kind of made up of parts 3 and 4, as you see in the map. And then there's the number 5, which is a little attachment off the corner. Building 6 is a small separate building. And then building 7 is a small shed that wasn't on the original survey, but they're willing to take it down either way. So that would kind of a moot point. So what the proposal is in this most recent request would be to remove buildings 5 and 6 fully, building 7, which is that small shed, and then building 4, which is part of that larger main barn, kind of the L shape of it, the north to south portion, would be removing that portion of that building. So really all that would be left under the rustic structure designation in the end would be the large east-west portion of the main barn, which is identified as number 3, and then the silos are attached to that. So that would just all be left as the one building. So that would be what they're requesting the rustic structure designation for. The highlighted buildings 4, 5, 6, and 7 would go away, and 1 and 2 would remain as what's allowed by right. There's a small shed shown on the far right side of the property, but it's like a doghouse kennel, so we're not really worried about that. As far as the numbers go, the total structure limit with this upgraded size would be 456 square feet. And the proposed buildings that would be allowed by right would put you at 4,453, so just barely under that limit, those are the 2 that would be allowed by right. And then those other ones that would come down would be down. Now, one of the questions that was talked about would be timeframes for removal. And what Mr. Rinn proposed is the idea that he'd be allowed to keep 4, 5, 6, and 7 up until lots are sold off. You know, he owns these lots that are being sold. None of them have been sold yet, but basically he would remove those buildings only as he loses land, if you want to word it that way, as he sells lots. That would necessitate, you know, the square footage being allowed to be smaller and smaller. Typically, we don't look at lots that are not contiguous, you know, not one big lot, but as part of a rustic structure, we can consider anything we want to here. So that is something that Mr. Rinn has proposed. Now, if the Plan Commission would be receptive to that idea, is kind of just letting them stay up until lots are sold off where they're not allowed anymore based upon the landmass, staff would recommend or suggest like a sunset on that of 5 years, just so they're not sitting out here in 10, 15, 20 years and getting forgotten about. So that would be our suggestion if the Plan Commission likes that idea. One thing we did a little more digging on was some of the past approvals for rustic structures in the city. And those are listed in your supplement. 2002, we did do a rustic structure for 2 barns. The total accessory structures on the property was just a little over 5,700, almost 5,800 square feet, and they were allowed 4,400. So that was an overage there that was granted to allow 2 rustic structures. In 2004, there was a lot that was allowed just under 1,400 square feet for accessory structures. And 1,600 square feet or so was what was granted. And then there was a 300 square foot accessory structure that was removed as part of that future land division. And then in 2007, there was a barn that was granted rustic structure status. And that was kind of a unique one because the house had a guest house, and a barn on the property. So just to give you a little bit of that background. One of the other things that we have suggested is if the Plan Commission is receptive to that idea of when a lot sells, you know, we kind of redo the math, and as soon as it hits the numbers where the buildings have to start coming down, they come down. We don't always know when lots get sold. So what we would have to do is make sure the resolution clearly states that the owner would have to let us know within 5 days of closing when a property is closed, because we have no way of knowing when it's closed. It might be months after, if even then. So that way we can ensure that that building's removed and with whatever time frame the Plan Commission would want to set. You know, if it's 30 days, I think that's what we're recommending is 30 days of closing. The buildings would come down, you know, as the lots are sold with that 5-year sunset that we talked about. So Plan Commission decide what they want to do from here.
How many lots are for sale?
There's 7, I'm sorry? 6 lots. Scroll up to that page here. If this image right here, you can see all the lots that are part of the land division. So it's 1, 2, and 3 are kind of in the back part of the property. 4 is kind of the west central. 5 is up by the road. 6 is the existing farmstead, and 7 is in the far east. So there's total 7 lots. 6 would be sold off. 1 would be kept.
Would you like to add anything?
If you had any questions, I mean, you know, it's, you know, see where you're at with things and what questions you have at this point. I mean, we've been here.
Sure.
Discussed a lot of things prior, you know, where we stand with everything until the newest.
Regarding the potential sales, could we put on the tax roll? Because once he sells that property, that's tax roll, he's gonna have to come to the city and the tax is gonna change the names. We could put an easement on that title, and then once it is sold, it would have to be, come through the.
Well, I think the best tool we have is to hold the seller accountable, because we can cite, if the plan commission has a requirement that the seller wouldn't follow through with, we can issue a citation on that then. And that gives us some teeth. Not that we want to do that, and I don't plan on ever doing that. But a lot of times if you do like a lien or some kind of deed restriction, once again, that has to come to our attention. And sometimes it might be long after the sale that it ever comes to our attention.
Okay. I do not have a problem with having it tied to the sale of the property, as long as there's a limit put on it. Like you said, it's not going to be a quarter of a century before something happens to the end unit.
You're about to say something.
Yes.
So you're listening, nothing.
I have concerns. I have concerns. Under this proposal, you're going to be over double what the requirement is. At, I think, 2.26%. My suggestion is, under this proposal, with the add-ons that Adam had mentioned, if the east barn was taken down, that reduces the excess to 1.45%, which to me is a more acceptable number than 2.25% over. The other alternative is to retain Lot 7 in its entirety and keep up all those structures, and the ratio at that point would be 1.41%, both of which I can live with, and they're not excessive.
My comment to that is, isn't it, once it goes into rustic structure, it's not even part of this 2%? Isn't that typically the way it reads in the codes?
If it goes,
I do have this question on the books here.
If it goes into rustic structure.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this not designated rustic structure, or is it?
Not yet.
No.
The board doesn't prove it, it's not.
Okay, so what reasons isn't it? Is a question for the board.
I think he stated that one of the concerns is because the density of the property with all the sublots being sold off and the remaining buildings.
You're talking about pervious surface?
Just the density of the amount of buildings on the property.
But if it's exempt from that, I don't understand then.
It's not exempt.
But it's not exempt.
It's not exempt.
But if it were deemed rustic structure,
If it were, but
what does it take to be deemed rustic structure? I thought I qualified.
Getting the plan commission to be at ease with it is what it takes. So he's stating, Alderman Kubacki is stating one of the, now granted, he's just one person on board up here of 6 people here tonight. So don't know how the rest of the things, so does anyone else want to weigh in on this before we get too far down a rabbit hole?
Yeah, so I would echo what the good alderman says. In fact, I think that's generous compared to what we've done in the past. And I have a hard time designating that rustic structure with that much density. I mean, that is a lot. And I think the option the alderman presented is probably your best path.
Yeah.
For me.
Prior to dividing this, were you not aware that you had an issue with the density?
Yes. I read the definition of what it is, and I don't understand what I don't qualify for. You go back to square footage, but if it meets this, it should be designated rustic structure, which doesn't have a square footage rule. So that's the way I read it.
Well, it's not that way, because if it were that clean and simple, it wouldn't need to come to the plan commission. It could just be the code states this. And that's not how our ordinance is written for this. It gives the option for the plan commission at their discretion. That's the tide of, who's ever sitting in these seats at that time.
I'm sorry.
And I can tell you, Commissioner Buckmaster has been on this commission for probably 20 years, close to. And so he can probably give you the most history on this, but it's not clean cut where if it meets the if it meets a certain definition, because then it wouldn't even have to come to us.
I didn't really understand what building you were mentioning when you brought it up. You said you echoed him, so you're saying the long big barn you want out of there?
No, the long, big barn, it's the east barn.
Is that the one labeled number 2 on the diagram?
Yes, it is.
I've got everything I own in there. It's 23 years of living there. Throw out half of your house and try to live there. Honestly, I'm sorry, you got a little bit of emotion in this. I'd love to be more factual right now, but that's me. That's why I'm here 3 times.
But you knew this going in.
But I looked at it like I had the choice of getting it rustic structure designation, and I'm looking like, well, oh, that's right. Yep, that one. Yep, that one. Yep, that one. I mean, so I'm like, how could they say no? Or in an earlier meeting.
Withdraw lot 7, and then you can keep the barn.
Withdraw lot 7?
From the market. In its entirety.
The one furthest to the east?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's contiguous with this whole area. To me, that makes it makes the most sense to keep that all in one spot.
I know where we're at with this, and we're talking about rustic structure right now. But I have to tell you from my personal point, I've got so much money tied into this, and I know maybe we're not supposed to talk about that right now, but I have to feel that way. I mean, this will all be taxable lots for everybody, okay? I mean, for the city. They're good lots. They're big dollar homes that go in there. I built them. I made them. I've got $640,000 additional to what the cost is in it. To take every bit from, that's probably one of the best lots too. So, I mean, I get it. It's just taking, I'm trying to survive. There 100% of my people on my road brought it up. One person in back of me didn't. I don't understand why that doesn't have pull when it comes to the shall consider. I see the way it's worded here. The planning commission shall consider this, but with all this meeting this, I understand you're looking at the square footage, but if it were rustic, deemed rustic, and you could see it that way, this is what I have to go off a definition. Like you said, why didn't I think of this before? I read this thing off and I'm like, this is great. I'm everything. I mean, we kept them up. You guys had an inspector come out, ace, super great shape. So I'm like, we can't rebuild these anymore. Now, me and another person here tonight, we were talking about it, that we've been here 40, 50 years out here. We've been living in Muskego. I grew up in Muskego High School. One of my classmates, Wayne Salentine's kid, was my class 82 with me. You can't bring this back. I know square footage and this and that, and I understand that, but this is the one clause that we have within our codes and zonings that allow for this exception. Maybe that it's a little bit over, but 4% of 211,000 square feet is all I'm asking to keep my buildings on, as opposed to, a little over 4, right? I mean, so that's where I'm coming from. And you get rid of lot 7. I don't know. I mean, I've been there 23 years. I love it. I've done what I can to maintain. I put tens of thousands of dollars into maintaining them, and I thought that would help. At this date, saying, look, he really tried. He kept it up good. He kept these barns that you can't rebuild anymore. That's why I think it's important to us, to our city, where I came from. I love this city. That's why I'm here. I'm asking you guys to look into that, say it's just not a square footage rule. This is an exception, a clause of why we have it in our codes to allow this. I get it, it's setting precedents because it's more, but look at what we have and how decent. It's not ready to fall down, and you know what, you're gonna have to fix it up, Mr. Wren. I get that's part of the readings in here that it says it must be presentable and structurally strong at the time of applying for this, but I don't know, I'm just asking to consider, I know what you're saying. To get rid of that lot 3, it's a negotiation on your part from the commission, but I'm asking you to consider me too, a little bit. I've been up here, I've been super honest. I spent hundreds of thousands on engineering going back and forth, making sure these lots were decent. I had a reasonable, decent relationship working with Adam and Aaron, that I try my hardest to do the right thing. I'm asking that you guys see a little bit on that side instead of just the numbers.
Adam, can you deed restrict a property for not allowing accessory structures on it?
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I don't know why you can't. The hard problem with deed restrictions is.
Does that work?
The problem we have with the deed restriction
The
is.
lots that are for sale? And restrict their use?
Yeah. I mean, one of the concerns that we had from neighbors was we give the approval on this, and then every outlot he sells has so much by right that they can put up, and now you have all this extra density around. Not sure if it's going to diminish some of the value of the property. So
Sure.
I don't know. Is that, and
The hard part of the deed restriction is, as long as we remember, great, but if someone else is here, there's, someone has to do a title search to find a deed restriction.
you can put it in a file for
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's tracking mechanisms.
I'm not even sure if it's suitable for the plan commission. It's just a thought.
Is there a requirement, lot 7 is 2.78 acres. Can we cut that down instead of getting rid of it, or,
Minimum lot size is 3 acres, or 2.75.
2.75.
So you got 0.03 to work with.
yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, I'm guessing Alderman Kabaki wouldn't have an issue if you picked another contiguous lot.
I was going to mention that because lot 5 is a significant amount of wetland on it. Out of everything, lot 5 is, in my opinion, probably the least valuable, just because it's fronting the road and it has a ton of wetlands. That is contiguous. Would that change anything? I don't know.
That's fine. It's got the similar amount of square footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it wouldn't necessarily have to be lot 7. It could be another lot.
Right. I'm just curious, when you decided to embark on this, you had to have some counsel other than yourself as how to divide the lots? Or did you just do this on your own? Did you have...
Years of doing it, I divided the first 4. It was nothing like it is nowadays. That was 2005, 2006. Just a simple division. Nothing like a big subdivision. Where this, because of the big lots, isn't a huge subdivision, but sure had to do a lot on there. Other than curb and gutters and stuff like that. But swales and engineering and flow and 4 retention ponds for 3-acre lots. I just have such, I think that's just way over the board. But
you'd still have 6 more lots available if we did what the alderman suggested.
6 more lots available for what?
Well, if you got rid of number 7 as suggested.
I got my lot I live on.
So it's
so then you take the 6th lot, you'd be 5 more. I just, I don't know. I'm just trying to do what I can to, that one, like you said, that one is the less expensive one that's out in front, but that might be the one that would have sold. I just trying to make things happen where I can at least, I don't know. I get too many feelings in this. I'm really sorry. I wish I could talk more just straight factual with you guys. But I've been here so many times on this already.
But we've told you, this is something you should have taken care of before you actually went to subdivide these. You would have at least had an idea of where.
I was told I had a choice to do that or apply for rustic structure. And like I said, boom, 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 boom. In my eyes, talking to other people, I get it. Setting precedents that it's a lot bigger, but I don't know. You said there's one thing that doesn't qualify out of 3 things. So I don't know what I didn't qualify for within what the definition of rustic structure designation is. So
I think what was meant was the rustic structure is not a guarantee. Just because you meet them all, that means you have the ability to ask. You can't even ask if you don't meet the criteria.
Okay.
So where are we going with this? We have motions or any more discussion, or I need some kind of direction here?
Well, rather than losing a lot, I just don't understand why that building can't come down. I know you had 22 or 23 years of things that are in there that need to be purged, as all of us have lived our life and we've moved on. That would seem to me, if you're trying to keep your profitability in selling these lots and putting that in your bank account, the easiest thing to do would be take down one of the structures that don't qualify, and then you could still sell this, that seventh lot, in my opinion. So as a businessman, that'd be the first thing I would do, is my least cost, and reallocate where that storage is being, utilized either on your property in one of the other buildings or offsite like I do. That's a much more profitable situation to sell a lot and get rid of a storage facility.
I got everything in there. I don't know what to say. It's like selling your bedroom and your living room. It's that close to me. And it's 30 feet outside the house. Everything that's further. That rustic structure barn, the one that I'm asking to keep within there, is used for cows. It's set up nothing for storage. It would be, there's levels and where they got the hay upstairs and there's steps, and I can't even put stuff in there.
Just giving you an option, sir. Just giving you an option. You're trying to get resolved for you, and we need to give you options.
Everything.
Okay, those are our suggestions.
Yeah, those are my two recommendations. We're going to go with this.
So where do you want to go with this? We either need a motion to approve, a motion to deny, motion with amendment.
So the other option is for us to defer this and you get one more month. But if these choices aren't palatable for you now, is there reason to believe that you're going to come back here with accepting any of the options that were presented, or come up with additional options to meet the spirit of what we've suggested? Because I'm willing to defer this, but not if you're not going to come back with anything. I don't want to waste your time either.
I could just research. I don't know. I mean, deferral doesn't do me any good either.
Read the room. So if we vote right now, count. So give me the option, can defer it or take a vote.
And I think the way the resolution is written right now, because it's never been amended since the original request, it's basically based on what he originally requested, which was numerous buildings, and not some of them coming down. So I think
more than likely we're going to have to defer it and come up with a clean resolution to come back for.
We could do that too, yeah. I have notes, but depends on what direction you go, where those notes go.
Could you repeat that? I didn't catch the last.
They said more than likely we're going to have to defer this regardless, just to clean up the resolution, because the resolution right now is written
based on
for the original ask, and it's taken so many different variances since then. And
okay.
It's going to, whatever we come up with, it's going to be something fairly complicated that I'm not comfortable doing this on the fly tonight.
Okay.
But I would at least like to get some consensus on where we're going, so we have a drafted resolution that we can act on.
I want to weigh in on one thing. I'm not against the barn at all. What you provided tonight is a step forward to, you grabbed some land back and you came back and presented taking down more of the buildings. There's a timeline with this too. I don't know. How long are you going to live here? Is there some sort of timeline and plan that could be put together? I know we talked about that before. So I don't know. Again, it's just my viewpoint. Everybody's got their own, but is there some way to work that out? Where there be a timeline to maybe coming down with building number 2 at a certain point, or, but that's just me speaking, and that clearly doesn't represent everybody up here. So, but I want to throw that out there because that's my feelings on it. So.
I'll move to defer.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to defer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's deferred to the next meeting. All right, new business for consideration, Resolution PC 056, 2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Dan, how do I say your last name, Dan? Gaddis, sorry, of Danny Haskell's Pub and Grill located at West 171 South 7260 Lannon Drive, tax key number 2198.001.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. So this request is for a new accessory structure behind the existing bar. It would kind of serve two purposes. Winter's purpose would be storage of a lot of their outside patio. You know, they have a nice patio out back, and a lot of the patio furniture and other outside stuff relating to their summer use would be stored in the building, the garage, in the winter. And then in the summer, it could double as basically just covered outdoor space. You could open up the garage doors, you know, use it for additional seating, keep you out the sun, maybe keep you out the rain, items like that. A building is 24 by 42 in size, so 1,008 square feet. Overall, it would be designed with general materials and colors to match the building. Normally for commercial, we like to see more masonry, but it's also, we think, more important to match the buildings on site. So we are definitely okay with the materials and colors proposed, as it would match the main bar building that you'd see in the same context with it. The only thing that really kind of came up during the review was, you know, when we do BSO amendments, we do site reviews, and it's kind of a chance to clean up anything that's maybe non-compliant on site. There was some outdoor storage on this site, some trailers and things that the owner has agreed to fence with a solid fencing. So that's part of the request, as well as there's some dumpsters and stuff that weren't properly screened. They were supposed to originally be in the old garage, and they've made their way outside. So they are going to install some gates on a certain little covered area to help it clean up those dumpsters. So staff is recommending approval between the proposed building as well as these kind of couple cleanup items they're doing. We think will be a great addition to the site, and staff is recommending approval.
Discussion? Are you planning on licensing the area too? Are you planning on using it as part of your licensed premise?
Well, we're gonna just be using, it's basically a tent. I've lost 4 tents for we had that sarcoma fundraiser.
Yep.
And this last one, I was out and the wind hit, and I'm like, and it was just a brand new one this year. And it's just basically, I'd like to put a pavilion up, but I was told that's like an extreme amount of money to keep it down. So I'm like, yeah, well, it's just a tent, and we're gonna use it for horseshoes, you know, maybe
Sure.
shade.
So your answer is yes, you're going to license it for your premise. You might want to just make sure you adjust your licensed premise to
All right,
include
yeah,
it when once it's done.
I don't do anything, but I'll look into that. I'll have my wife do that. I just take the credit.
Any further
As
discussion?
it should be.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Resolution PC 058, 2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Silver Lake Auto located at South 73 West 16610 Janesville Road, tax key number 2198.991.004.
Move to approve.
Second.
Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. Silver Lake Auto recently took over the former Muskego Tire and Auto. The Firestone dealers, you know, many local people knew it. So they're the new business in town, so welcome. And as part of their new branding and, you know, kind of creating their image on the building, as they have other facilities in other communities, they are looking at doing some upgraded changes to the building. Right now, really the main kind of things they want to do are just kind of changing a few kind of feature colors. Specifically, they're talking about the trim around the top of the building, service and overhead doors, light fixtures, bollards, and trim around the dumpster enclosure. They're proposing to be painted black. The bulk of the building would remain predominantly the same, as well as all of the areas currently that have awnings, which you can kind of see in the photos are pretty faded and such. They would be replacing those with new black UV resistant fabric for those. So obviously their colors are more in that black gray color scheme. So they'd still keep the predominant colors in the building, but kind of doing these accent colors with black. There would obviously be new signage as part of this on the building, but that's just handled at the staff level, making sure all of the proper percentages are being met, as well as they are proposing a monument sign as part of this also. And we did work with them. The design guide talks about monument signs having materials that match the building. So they are proposing a monument sign out front with a masonry base. There is no monument signage currently. And we just noted that the base material, the monument sign should match the color of the material on the building, so they look cohesive. Now, the design guide that governs this area for downtown does talk about things such as earth tone colors, grays, greens, browns, burgundies, tans. While they're not changing the whole building color, they're really just choosing an accent color, which I don't think it's a big deal, but the Plan Commission can determine that. And the Plan Commission and the design guide does talk about not painting necessarily masonry and brick, but the areas they're painting aren't masonry and brick. It's more accent features and aluminum and stuff. So staff is not as concerned with that either. One other thing worth mentioning, but I know the Plan Commission has looked at this favorably in some other sites. Typically, we recommend that like door colors, overhead doors and pedestrian doors match the wall color to kind of blend in. They are asking to have them black to kind of be part of their trademark color that they have on the building, as you can see in the renderings. So Plan Commission can really decide if they're good with the color palette that's being proposed, and the resolutions are recommending approval based upon their request.
Any discussion?
I like the color scheme. I like the black. It looks cool. So,
Yeah, it even looks better than
personal
that.
opinion.
Yeah, we
Yep,
changed
I
the
agree.
grading guidelines
Yeah.
about 4 years ago, and part of our renovation of all of our locations, it just came to us, and even some research with Keith's building here. We're not owners of the building yet, but it is in the lease. And was a little tricky, but I pulled up some of that, what the brick he has, and looked at some buildings downtown, and most of the buildings that are with this brick, the Cream City brick, have the black accent. So
Yeah.
I think it'll look good.
Any more knowledge or insight? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. Welcome.
Thank you.
Did your homework.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Welcome to Muskego.
Yeah.
Any miscellaneous business? Hearing none, and a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Do you need a second?
Who seconded?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 6:43.